Since Sergio Perez's fractious exit from the Red Bull racing team last season, opinions on his final season with the team have changed. At the end of 2024, Perez was completely finished according to the majority of the F1 fanbase, but following the team's struggles this season, everyone is reassessing how he did. Behind the scenes, Perez hasn't been sitting about licking his wounds, wishing the worst for Christian Horner. He and his management team have been busy. His links to Cadillac have been brewing all season, but there is another team that could be entering the race for Perez. Today, I'll check out the evolving return of Sergio Perez, so don't go anywhere. When Perez left Red Bull at the end of 2024, everyone apart from his fans thought that was probably the end of his time in Formula One. Apart from his strong start to the season last year, he was nowhere near Max Verstappen. 3 points finishes over his final 8 races was terminal to Red Bull's Constructors' Championship challenge, and the team eventually tumbled to 3rd place, despite winning the Drivers' Championship with Max. Sadly for Perez, his performance compared to his championship-winning teammate was inexcusable. Even then though, after such an underwhelming season and Verstappen's championship win, there was talk about whether the car might be to blame. Verstappen had started struggling with the car's poor balance as the season progressed, and very late on in the season, Red Bull admitted to ignoring Checo's complaints about the car from as far back as mid-2023. So despite leaving the team at the end of 2024 with such a large disadvantage to Verstappen, there were hints that it might not have all been him. Then up steps Liam Lawson, who in his first 2 races with Red Bull as Perez's replacement, completely fails to get to grips with a car that can't be driven to its maximum. He proves to Red Bull and the world that Perez wasn't the problem. He performs so badly that Red Bull pull him out of the car for the 3rd race of the season and replace him with Yuki Tsunoda. While Tsunoda has performed better with 2-point finishes in his first 4 races for the team, he's still a long way off Verstappen, and all the while, Perez's stock has been rising. When Cadillac announced that they would be doing a reveal event at the Miami Grand Prix, the expectation was that Sergio Perez would be a part of that. That didn't happen though, and now there are other teams on the grid considering going for his signature. This weekend, the race have reported that initial talks have taken place between Alpine and Sergio Perez's camp about a possible F1 race seat for the Mexican driver next season. Perez has spent the time since he left the sport last season, mostly with his family in Guadalajara, but wants to evaluate his options for an F1 comeback. He is understood to still be in training in anticipation of a potential return, and his representatives are engaged in discussions on his behalf. Perez's camp reportedly made contact with Alpine late last year, and in Miami, a further conversation was had with Alpine executive advisor Flavio Briatore to scope out whether that could be a destination for Perez next year. Alpine's driver situation is very fluid at the moment. Obviously, Pierre Gasly is guaranteed his seat until a better team makes him an offer, but his new teammate Franco Colapinto has a big question mark next to his name. More on that later though. There is another theory behind the talks between some of Perez's team and Alpine though. Carlos Slim is a long-time backer of Perez and has invested heavily into his career as well as the teams he's driven for. Slim is chairman of the board of directors at America Mobile, the parent company of Telmex, Telcel, Claro and others. He also appears to be a big fan of F1, often appearing at races. While F1 might be finished with Perez, Franco Colapinto is now driving for Alpine. Slim's numerous South American-based companies could be interested in a major sponsorship deal to capitalize on the Argentine's popularity. If a seat isn't available for Perez, then Carlos Slim may be in talks with Alpine to try and start backing Colapinto. The possibility of Perez getting a seat at Alpine has all started because of the team's decision to step down Jack Doohan and replace him with Franco Colapinto. When Alpine paid Williams $20 million to sign Franco as a reserve driver for 2022, it always looked like Jack Doohan's time at the team was ticking down. The Aussie hasn't really done anything wrong during his 6 races with the team, but even in F1, paying $20 million for a reserve driver is madness. Even if Doohan had outscored Gasly over the opening 6 races, chances are he would have lost his seat anyway. The team said in a statement that Colapinto would drive alongside Pierre Gasly from the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola on the 16th to the 18th of May. There will then be a new evaluation before the British Grand Prix, which is on the 4th to the 6th of July. That gives Franco 5 races to prove himself. On the surface, it would be easy to say that whoever performs best between Doohan and Colapinto will get the seat for the rest of the season, but it isn't that simple. Colapinto is expected to bring big money sponsors with him, and as long as he doesn't have a disastrous first races, the money could sway Flavio Briatore to take a less competitive driver in exchange for the financial upside he offers. Flavio said in a statement, "Having reviewed the opening races of the season, we've come to the decision to put Franco in the car alongside Pierre for the next 5 races. With the field being so closely matched this year, and with a competitive car, which the team has drastically improved in the past 12 months, we're in a position where we see the need to rotate our lineup. We also know the 2026 season will be an important one for the team, and having a complete and fair assessment of the drivers this season is the right thing to do in order to maximize our ambitions next year." That final sentence from Flavio is important. As brutal as the decision to cut Doohan after 6 races was, it doesn't mean it was the wrong decision. Getting an on-track comparison between 2 potential drivers for next season is an advantage that many teams never get. Obviously, Red Bull have made use of their second team to do that for years already, but for the rest of the grid, bringing in a rookie driver at the start of the season is a gamble. They never really know how well they'll perform. Testing and simulation work only gives you so much of a picture. So for Alpine, being able to compare 2 potential drivers for next season is an advantage they should leverage. One big concern that people have of Franco is his tendency for an accident. While he initially impressed at the end of 2024 with his time at Williams, opinions changed after a few very big accidents over the final few races, with his 2 massive shunts in Brazil being the standouts. He's been running some private testing for Alpine over the past few weeks to get ready for the Grand Prix this weekend, and at one of those, he had yet another crash. It'll be interesting to see how the next 5 races play out and what Alpine chooses to do. Will Colapinto be able to turn up and perform on track? Will Alpine be forced to go back to Doohan? Or could we see Sergio Perez driving for the team at Silverstone this season? Only time will tell. Something that's adding to the confusion over what is happening at Alpine was a resignation of their team principal Oliver Oakes. A statement by Alpine last Tuesday said Oakes had resigned, and the team had accepted his resignation with immediate effect. For now, Flavio Briatore has taken over the role of team principal, returning to running the team that he disgraced by orchestrating Crashgate almost 2 decades ago. No explanation was given for Oakes' departure. The team said no further comment would be made, and Oakes declined to comment when contacted. His resignation came just days after the arrest of his brother William, who is a director at High Tech Grand Prix, the British-based junior team founded by his brother Oliver in 2015. William Oakes was charged with transferring criminal property after being found in possession of a large amount of cash when he was stopped in Silverstone Park on May 1st. At the moment, there are no links between Williams' arrest and Oliver is not accused of anything. But the timing of Ollie's resignation has raised suspicions that his brother's arrest could have something to do with his resignation. Whatever has happened, it is a blow for Alpine, who are starting to look stable again after years of turmoil, with top-level staff being fired or resigning. What do you think of the goings-on at Alpine? Do you think Perez could make a surprise mid-season appearance? Or are you expecting Colapinto to perform well for the team? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.